Hey everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Share aloha and give love. Welcome to all of my newcomers and welcome back to those who have been here before. We're doing something quite new this week. We're actually doing a cooking in the kitchen video, and that's because I went out to social media and I asked you folks what you wanted to see, and a lot of you voted for that. So that's what we're doing. I am making a very near and dear dish to my heart. It's called pork and kale soup. It was really something that came to top of mind as my first cooking video because the weather here on Kauai has been super rainy, so it was a perfect dish to make at the time. Still perfect to make at the time, and you don't have to only make it when it's rainy, but that is the dish that I'm sharing with you folks today. So without further ado, let's get this journey started. Hey guys, so I posted my new YouTube video this weekend and I went out to you folks, the people, the audience, you amazing individuals out there, and I asked you folks, what should my next YouTube video be about? You all selected cooking in the kitchen. So because of that, my first recipe, I need specific ingredients. So I need to go at least drive 30 minutes out to a store that's not even close to me to try and see if I can find these ingredients to make this dish for you. So stay tuned for that.
Sun is always shining, feel that cool breeze. Why you in a hurry? No need to rush things. Just sit back and cruise and we'll be this place they call paradise. I call my home. Blessed to be born and raised local grown. This aloha going.
Alright guys, so this is the shopping haul. We have our country pork ribs. We got our Johnsonville Italian mild sausage. 32 fluid ounce of vegetable broth. We have 2 pounds of kale, celery, onion, yellow onion, 1 stick of carrot, and garlic. The only thing that we're missing from this haul is pork soup bones, but it's okay. The soup bones add more flavor, but believe me, with all of this, it's going to be super flavorful. So let's get to prepping.
Tasted all the flavors. Just one thing I can't understand is why I'm never satisfied. There's nothing like the feeling when you start craving. Flashbacks reminiscing about that one very first luau. Soon as I start to head back home, I call my brothers up on the phone. We're heading down to that special place where you can both afford it.
For the first step, you'll want to heat butter and oil in a pot on medium-high heat. Then add in your 1-inch diced country pork ribs. Once that's all nicely coated in the butter and the oil, you're going to want to take some garlic salt, sprinkle some garlic salt on top all over that meat. And please keep in mind that this may seem like a lot, but in reality, this is the only time I actually add salt into this dish. And then of course, you're also going to want to add in some black pepper. Hopefully you don't have as much trouble as I did trying to get the black pepper in the pot. What you're doing here is you're actually just seasoning the meat, and you're going to go ahead and brown it. Once you've added in the seasonings, just mix it to make sure that the meat is evenly coated in the seasoning. And just go ahead and brown the meat. Don't cook it through, just go ahead and brown it.
I like my fish and pork. I'm a big boy, know me salmon, pipi, kaula, extra large, lily koi, squid or chicken luau. Don't forget the lau lau, beef or tripe stew, just to name a few. Oh yeah.
Once the meat is done browning, you're going to want to go ahead and take it out, set it aside, and leave it alone. We'll get back to it later. This pot has a lot of great flavor in it, all at the bottom from browning that meat. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your chopped celery, carrots, onion, and garlic, and you're going to add that into the pot, and you're going to just want to cook it, sweat it down until it smells nice and fragrant, and you'll see that the vegetables are turning really translucent. Now I know that you should really cook them at separate times, but we're not cooking at a high heat, so it's not that big of a deal. So just go ahead and sweat those veggies.
No, can't forget Mama's specialty, and Papa's pour him more cheese. Smoked meat, show you.
Once all your veggies are cooked through, you're going to want to go ahead and take your vegetable broth and just add that in there. Now I'm using an organic vegetable broth because unfortunately that's all I have. Now you could easily save any stalks that you have from carrots, celery, onion, all of that good stuff, and create your own vegetable broth if you have. Go ahead and use that too. Once you've added that in, you're going to want to take your spoon and really get all of those great tidbits on the bottom. So just scrape it all up and make sure that all of your stuff is inside the broth, because that's what's going to give the broth that nice flavor that's needed for this soup. Once that's all done, you're going to want to go ahead and bring the veggies and the broth to a boil for 15 minutes. Now you're supposed to add in a bay leaf at the beginning of this step, but I unfortunately forgot, and you'll see me adding it in at the ending of the step. So add in your bay leaf and then bring this to a boil for 15 minutes. Once the soup is done boiling for 15 minutes, you're going to want to take the meat that you browned earlier and add that into the soup, which you'll see me doing in this step. Once I'm done adding it in, I'm going to just mix it around and make sure that it's completely sitting inside the broth. And here is when you'll want to take a time to notice, am I needing more liquid? If so, add more liquid to make sure that your meat is completely submerged in that broth to ensure that it gets nice and tender and it cooks through thoroughly. Now I think I added about 2 cups of liquid. When that's done, you're going to want to go ahead and just let it boil one more time, mix it around, let it go.
Pork with the rice can make a bad day feel real nice. I'm flashing back all over again. I know you feel what I'm feeling with it.
So we've been letting this boil for 15 minutes. Once that's done, we're going to want to take off the lid. And we're going to want to add in the sausages that we prepped earlier. Now the sausages have been removed from its casings and formed into little meatballs about the same size as the pork ribs. I'm actually noticing that a lot of the sausages are sticking together, so what I'm going to do is make sure that they're not sticking together and completely mixed in with the pork ribs. So that's what I'm doing right now. You'll also want to take the time to recognize, do you need more liquid? And if you do, take the time to add that in. Right now I'm just stirring it around, trying to see if maybe I have enough liquid. And at this point, I think that there is. So I'm going to go ahead and cover it up and let it boil once more.
Every local boy would agree that it's just the Hawaiian in me. I like my fish and pork. I'm a big boy, know me salmon, pipi, kaula, extra large, koi, squid, chicken.
Our soup has been boiling for another 10 minutes now. So we're going to take off the lid, and this is the part in which we're actually going to add the kale to this portion of the pork and kale soup. So I add in my kale in bunches. So I'm going to go ahead and add in a few bunches at a time. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make sure that the kale has been pressed into the soup, because we don't want the kale to be raw. We want to make sure that it's wilted, it's nice and it's tender. So take your spoon, mix it around, push it down into that soup, and do it for all of the kale that you have. So again, just make sure that your kale gets placed into the soup and that it gets nice and evenly distributed within the liquid. You'll see that I actually messed up and I was missing a little bit more liquid, so I added just a little bit more in this step and then just thoroughly mixed it around. Alright, so we added in all of the kale and we actually let it simmer for 5 minutes. That's why it's covered again. So this is me removing the lid after 5 minutes, and you'll notice that all of the kale is actually really nice and tender, and it's actually nice and wilted. When that's done, all you want to do is just stir it around, make sure it's all good to go, and then go ahead and serve it over a nice warm bed of rice or even a side of bread. It's totally up to you. Either way, enjoy. You worked hard for that. Yes, now you may eat your food. Pork and kale soup. Okay, Kaipo's eating some
I like
too.
it a lot.
You like it a lot? Well, I mean, they're eating, so. The verdict, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. Yay! Are you watching what's happening to me? Yeah. Like I just got re-hooked on a hook.
Open up the chest of the chair.
It's good. I don't like kale, but it's good. So I really hope that you enjoyed that video, and I hope that you give this recipe a try. If you do try out this recipe, please tag me in your videos or even post a picture down below in the comments so I can see what your finished product looked like. Now remember, a recipe does not have to be followed to the T. That's kind of the great thing about cooking, is that you can really take all of these amazing ideas that you have and turn it into a wonderful dish. So if you want to, turn it into a vegetable soup. Turn it into a keto-friendly soup. Let me see what ideas you have for making this soup unique and yours. With that being said, this is actually the soup in which my family will eat kale. It's really hard to get them to eat kale, and that's because kale is really bitter. It's naturally bitter. So the soup actually combats that bitterness by adding in the meat and the sausages. The kale then just becomes another filler item, and it's a super green, so it's totally healthy for them. So I'm glad that they actually eat kale in this soup. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and ring that bell so you get notified on when I post another video. Thank you all so much for hanging in there with me and for being on this journey with me. I hope that you give this recipe a try, and always remember to share aloha and give a little bit of more love, whether that's to other people or to yourself, because you deserve it. Take care and stay safe, everyone.